If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Friday edition of the Ron and Don Show, where, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday show, we do stuff like we used to do in Cairo. So it's news talk, it's sports, it's fun, it's banter. Two boyhood friends just slugging it out. But on Friday, it's time to talk about real estate. Whether you're buying, selling, investing. When we first got into real estate, we were always looking for a real estate show like this that would explain real estate to us in really simple terms. So it's Friday, so it must be time for Ron Explains.
Ron's got a map in his pocket, a chalkboard brain that won't stop it. Why's the sky blue? Why's the grass green? He's the sharpest know-it-all you've ever seen. Ron explains, from the cosmos to your drains. Big or small, he's got the brains. Don't you worry, Ron explains.
All right, here we go. And was that your sister saying Ron Explains? Or
No,
who?
that's an AI. I did that through the artificial intelligence.
Oh, you did?
It just is wild that you can just pop in this prompt and it creates a song immediately.
Very cool. I love it. All right, what are we explaining today on the real estate program?
So I got to thinking on we always talk about different parts around the Puget Sound. We sell the Sound. That's our slogan. And so we do deals on the east side in different counties, different property types. Like this year we've done stuff with acreage down in Rainier to downtown condos that are in a high rise to individual houses on the east side, the west side, Island County, up in Everett, all the way down to Gig Harbor. So we've done property types all over. So I got to thinking this week for Ron Explains, is there a really big difference in the Puget Sound area depending on the type of real estate you buy and the area of the real estate you would buy? And that's the chart that I made this week on Ron Explains. And so what we have here, Don, is I created this chart. We've got 2024 or 2014 to 2024. So the smaller bit of this column, the chart, is 10 years ago. And then the bigger one is in 2024. That's the last complete year of data. And so I just went out and did some research. And I was like, okay, what if you bought a condo? And the green and blue ones, the Seahawk colors, are all condos, and then the orange and purple ones are all houses. So let's start with condos, and I want to see what's the appreciation. Because a lot of times people, if you're making an investment property, you're like, what's my biggest bang for the buck when it comes to ROI? So this is just for a standard condo, nothing necessarily special, doesn't have a special feature, it's not a penthouse, it's not necessarily in a prestige building. If you just bought a condo in 2014, that condo in downtown Seattle was averaging around $350,000 in 2014.
10 years ago.
10 years ago. So you jump to 2024, that condo is worth $625,000. So that's an increase on that asset of 78%. You did nothing to that condo. You just lived in that condo, held on to it for 10 years. Your investment went up 78%. Condo in Capitol Hill now. Mm-hmm. Capitol Hill saw a lot of changes in the last decade. You could get into that condo in 2014 for $425,000. It went up 82% in those 10 years, and it is now worth $775,000. Jump over to Bellevue, that saw a tremendous amount of development over the past 10 years. Your initial purchase price in Bellevue was going to be $475,000. It went up 100% in those 10 years to $950,000. And so when we think about condos and we think about this in our region over 10 years, before we get into houses, there's a lot of doom and gloom articles when people are doing studies nationwide about condos. Why do you think our condos have performed better than they say people aren't buying condos suck nationwide? There's a lot of doom and gloom around condos.
Well, I think it's because it's what's in the shadow of, right? And what these condos, when you're talking downtown Seattle, you are in the shadow of tech, right? You're just miles away. You can walk to South Lake Union if you like. If you Capitol Hill, the same thing, or people that live up on First Hill. If you're on Capitol Hill, First Hill, You want to walk to South Lake Union. Maybe it's more of a ride your bike. Good luck. It used to be good luck getting back up the hill, but now you can do that battery operated or buses run all day long. And then when you look at Bellevue, what has happened in Bellevue is, number one, they were going to move Microsoft over to Seattle. They didn't do that, and Amazon initially was never going to be in South Lake Union. It was going to be Microsoft. They've refurbished all those buildings over there now. Microsoft is really taken off when it comes to AI. And then we also know, because the city of Seattle, when they started talking about head taxes and everything else, the Microsofts, the Googles, the Metas of the world said, we're going to stay here, but we're not going to make our footprint as big as we initially thought it was going to be. We're going to head over to Bellevue on the east side. We feel like it's safer over there. We feel like it's better policed. We feel like it's newer. And also now you're in the shadow of not only everything that Amazon's building over there, but you're also in the shadow of what's happening at Microsoft.
So let me ask you this. If I was wanting to sell this condo in Bellevue or Capitol Hill, and I'm thinking about capital improvements, I'm thinking about improving my condo, is that good ROI? Because I know you have expertise in houses, but when I think about this, I'm looking through the listings in my building. What should I think about condo-wise? Because it's very different than in making improvements in a single family.
Well, it's a great point. You're buying a box in a box, right? So, and you're responsible for both boxes. You're responsible for your condo, and then also there's a percentage outside of your box that's inside this box known as a condo. They call it the envelope of the building that you're also responsible for. That's one of the reasons why you want to be nosy. Before you become a neighbor, you want to be a nosy neighbor. So Ron knows this because he lives in a condo. The condo association gets together and they have meetings. And in these meetings, they talk about some of the challenges that the building has. And maybe some of the studies that they've done, let's say on windows, or let's say a side of the building has to be painted, or let's say the roof has to be replaced, or let's say it doesn't have AC and they're interested in putting AC in. Let's say it's an older condo that has a knob and tube. What are we going to do to fix the knob and tube? Maybe when looking at that condo, the most important thing is you could walk into your condo. Let's say it's all souped up. You got Thermador appliances in there, and you're like, wow, this box is really great. It's like brand new in here, even though this building is from 1920. You got to make sure the building that's from 1920, that's brand new as well. So that's why you want to get those minutes before you buy a condo and read all the minutes and go through and see, what are they talking about? They call them special assessments. What's the assessment of this building? What are some things in the future that need to be fixed? And also, one of the reasons why they collect HOA is they want to take some money, they want to put it aside so they can pay for maintenance now and things that are going to happen in the future. That'll all be or they should be in the minutes when the HOA gets together. So make sure you read all about it.
What do you tell this person on Capitol Hill that pulls up a listing from their building and they say, hey, Don, real estate guy, this person sold this 6 months ago for $1 million. It happens to be 3 floors above mine on a corner unit, and they did a complete remodel. I want $1 million for my condo too.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is we just talked about a box within a box, and that other box has been overhauled and yours has not. So while you're worried about maintaining the building, you also want to be worried about maintaining and staying up to date with updates in your own condo. Plus the side of the building that you're on. Do you get morning light? Do you get evening light? Do you watch the sun go up? Do you watch it go down? Do you have views? Does it feel safe? Is it policed well? What amenities do you have?
Do you get a parking space? Are you close to the elevator?
And does everybody have access to the same amenities? Does everybody have access to the same parking? Sometimes they don't. Do you have storage downstairs? Depending on the condo, if you have a studio, you may not have parking and storage, and that's a big deal on a Capitol Hill.
Just because someone got $1 million in the building doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get $1 million.
Hey, you might get more.
You might get more.
You might get
depending
more.
on what you did. All right, so now let's switch to houses. So all of these were condos, all right? So we had a downtown condo, a Capitol Hill condo, a Bellevue condo. Let's look at houses. So the orange and purple is houses. A house in North Seattle. So this is not a special neighborhood. We're not talking about waterfront. We're not talking about the top of Queen Anne. We're just talking about a house in the northern part of Seattle.
Maybe a place like Greenwood.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we in 2014, you're looking at a $450,000 house, and in 2024, that house is $925. That's a 105% increase.
10 years later.
House in West Seattle. So West Seattle costs you a little bit less to get into it. So in 2014, $425,000 for just a house, not a house on the water or just a regular house. That went up to $875,000. That's a 106% increase. Now, if we go over to the east side, this is interesting to me. The house in Bellevue. And again, I'm not talking about McMansions or special neighborhoods in Bellevue. It's a house in Bellevue was $650,000, so higher to get into it in 2014. You go about 10 years ahead, 130% increase.
That's crazy.
That's now a $1.5 million house, and a regular bread and butter house in Redmond was $550,000 in 2014, and that thing went up 132% in 10 years for $1.28 million.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that's interesting. You never advocate, or I've never heard you advocate, just buy a house, client of Ron and Don Real Estate, and don't do anything with it. Just ride that thing for the next 10 years. That is not your plan as an investor and an owner. So while these are the averages that we see, 105, 106, 130, 132, there's a way to make that number even bigger if you think like a Ron and Don client would think.
Yeah, so let's start with just a house here in Seattle. A lot of these homes in Seattle have basements. A lot of these homes were built, they were either built in the early 1900s or they call them war boxes. They were built around the time that we were making the New Deal around
in the 40s and 50s?
Yeah, around World War II, right? Before and after. And so a lot of these have basements that are not finished, and there's an opportunity to go in and finish the basement. If you can go in and finish the basement, it's called adding a door, adding appreciation, forcing appreciation on that property. Well, you've added you've now added a second kitchen. You've tapped into the plumbing and the stack, and now maybe you have the ability to bring in an extra $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 a month. That's a big deal. Here's what's happening in Seattle, though, compared to what you see out in Bellevue, in Redmond, and even in West Seattle. The lots in Seattle are very small. So a lot of times in Seattle, you'll see a 3,300 square foot lot or a 4,000 square foot or a 4,500. A lot in Seattle that's 6,000 square feet would be considered ginormous, right? And those are some of the lots where you're able to put a backyard cottage and add a third door and really increase the price, the value of the property. When you go out to West Seattle, a lot of these homes are a lot smaller, but the lot size, a 6,000 square foot lot size, is very small in West Seattle. So out in West Seattle, there's an opportunity to build not just a second door, but maybe even a third door. And then when I take you over to Bellevue and Redmond, now we're talking lots that aren't 6,000 square feet. They're 16,000 square feet. They're 23,000 square feet. So one of the things that drives everything on the east side is all the things I just talked about. You're in the shadow of tech. It feels safe. You're there on the I-5, 405 corridor. But really over there, you get a much bigger lot, and you have a lot of builders and developers that have stepped. They buy a lot for these homes. They tear them down, and where you see one home, now you see 4 or 5 homes.
And so the final thing I want to ask you about in this real estate only episode is these are really good numbers. There's a lot of parts of America, like my mom and dad's house I grew up in Albuquerque. You may have gotten 10% increase, if any. There's parts in outside Chicagoland area where you grew up where maybe this 10-year gap might be, $40,000. Like, it's not going to be a huge amount of money. So these are all good of being in the Pacific Northwest. However,
to your point, the house I grew up in, my parents bought for $31,000 in Granwood Park, Illinois. I went and Googled it the other day.
And that's 50 years ago they bought it.
Yeah, and I Googled it the other day. It's worth $95,000.
Yeah, so very little appreciation.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't just think like an owner, though, let's say you think more like an investor / developer, there can be things here where this percentage, and maybe if you can go over just the baseline stuff of your own house, it's a little bit longer than 10 years, so maybe more like 15 years. This can be 700, 800, 1,000% instead of being 100%. Now, your cost basis is going to be higher because you're going to buy the house, acquire the house, and then put a lot of money into the house. But this number would be off the charts because it's going to be 1,000%.
And again, these are just averages. So it's very, very different. And in fact, this is where you have to be really careful about reading all the like there's an article that just came out that said there's all these delists that are going on around the nation. Great. It's not Seattle, right? So Seattle is very, very different. There's lots of water here. There's not an opportunity to go out and buy a new piece of land. So you're tearing down an existing structure that was already there in order to build something. Excuse me, the building codes here are very, very strict.
But I know that your goal as an investor is to never have 82% over 10 years. Like you want that to be 3x, 4x, 5x.
Yeah, and so what you have to do is these are properties that you bought, you maintained, but you didn't add a door or two to the particular lot. And I'm not interested, for instance, in buying a house that's on a 3,300 square foot lot, even if I can go in there and do a couple things to it and increase the value of it, because I can't add a second door or a third door, I'm not as interested. Or buying a home that's on a through lot. In other words, it goes to another street. So you're now between 14th Street and 15th Street, or you're between 14th Street and an alley. You can now build a second house off the alley. Now you've really increased the revenue and also the value of that lot. And you've done it on quote unquote free land. You took the land that you had and you said, I'm going to build a second structure on it. What a lot of people are doing is they're allowing builders to do this. They're selling off the property to a builder, and then a builder is doing what we actually teach our people to do, that buy and sell real estate. We're like, if you have the wherewithal to build a second structure or to build out the basement, go ahead and do that yourself. We have there's a couple that stayed at my ADU in my basement a number of years ago. And he came back to me, and he was working for Meta at the time. And he said, hey, my wife and I are thinking about having a family. We would like to buy a home, but because I'm in tech, I don't know that I'm always going to be here. So then I have to turn around and sell the home. I said, let's find a home, add doors to it. And then that way, if you end up going somewhere, you can keep one of those doors for yourself. The other two doors will continue to pay down the debt service and maybe even cash flow the property. He called me last week, Ron, and I had returned a call of his, and we were going back and forth. I said, what is going on? He said, I just got a job in AI down in San Francisco. He said, but I don't want to sell the house here. I want to buy another house down there. So we sat down, we went through the numbers, and I said, you know what? This is great because you're going to be able to keep a door for you and your family to go back and forth between San Francisco. They have 2 kids now, and they love it here. So now you have a free place to stay. When you're not there, you can rent that third door out. And then the other 2 doors, we figured out not only is it's going to pay for the debt service on this house that they have in Seattle, so it's going to keep accelerating and going up in value. They're going to hang on to it. But it's also going to cash flow. And he's going to be able to run that from his phone, which is pretty amazing. So when you buy the first house, don't sell the first house to buy the second. Use the leverage that you have from the first house to buy the second house and the third house and the fourth house. And if you get to a point where you own 5 or 6 houses, you got a pretty good life ahead of you.
So my point with this is if this piques your interest, you want to talk to us about investing, I'm not going to guarantee you that we can 3X, but if you do the methodology that Don just talked about, your lowest you're going to get would be 100%. Like most likely it's going to be 2X, 3X, 4X in over a 10-year span is what I would think.
Yeah, and again, these are just averages. We can't see whether a house is on through alley here. We can't see the lot size. We can't see if it's on the water. We can't see what it's in the shadow of.
These are just examples.
These are just examples in neighborhoods.
But it is interesting.
Well, it is interesting, and it's one of the reasons why when you go out and you fall in love with a house, I always ask people, why are you in love with it? And then I ask them the exit strategy, and I'm like, if you don't have an exit strategy on this house, like if you have to sell it tomorrow, 3-5 years from now, or in a decade from now, and an exit strategy to make money on this house, that's the thing that you have to ask yourself. Sometimes take the emotion out and go, wow, I really love this house, or I'm having high vibes. I got a high vibe tribe going with this house. Also ask yourself, wow, well, in this particular case, the house that we bought had been placed in a zone where we could turn that into 2 doors or 3 doors. It was already zoned for that. When I was telling you about my friend that called that had lived in my basement at one point, you want to think about the zoning. I'm buying something, and what is this zone for? And is there a free piece of land here where I can immediately add appreciation to the property? So, hey, you guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Ron Explains. Great job. I love the graph. We'll take a picture of that, put that up on our social media feeds. If you have questions, you want to sit down with us, what should they do?
Yeah, go to ronandonsitdown.com. Let's get a strategy built for you and your family's goals. And you can do that at ronandonsitdown.com or email me, ron@ronandon.com.
Happy holidays, everyone. I feel a little stupid because I got my Santa hat on and my Santa shirt, and then you said you're going to wear your Santa sweatshirt that I got you for Christmas, and you didn't wear it. So I'm over here looking like basically.
You got some big Nick energy.
What's that mean? Do you know?
I do.
Is that inappropriate?
It is.
My son let me know.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. He goes, that's inappropriate. Anyway, and then he wanted to know if he could have one too. Wait till you see my new Mean Machine t-shirt.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, till next time, head up, shoulders back. Thanks to Matt, Grace, 8-year-old version of my son, Charlie the dog. He's Ron, I'm Don. Don't forget, you've been listening to the Ron and Don Show all night on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Ron Explains.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.